Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Kickstart with Kayla. I'm your host, Kayla Farner, and I am so excited that you are here with me this week. If you haven't connected with me already, be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Kickstart with Kayla. Or if you want to email me, you can do so at kickstartwithkayla@gmail.com. Okay, if the audio sounds, just a heads up, if the audio sounds a bit weird today, it's because I am on a 2-hour drive right now. I don't know if it will, because obviously this has not been edited yet when I'm recording, but if it does sound odd, I apologize. I am on a 2-hour car drive right now by myself, and I thought, what would be a more perfect time than to just talk to myself and record an episode? So here I am. Um, but typically throughout the week, when I'm trying to decide what I want to speak on for a podcast, I often try to determine what God has put on my heart. And that requires a lot of praying throughout the week, a lot of asking God to plant something in my heart and, just determining it throughout the week. And as I was doing this past week to figure out what I was going to speak on today, I was at lunch with some of my friends, and they brought up this TikTok that I had not seen yet, but it's going viral right now, and it's honestly pretty heartbreaking. I don't know if you've seen it, but essentially what it is, this woman is conducting an experiment where she's calling a bunch of different religious centers across the country and asking for baby formula, asking if they could help her out. And she's been calling everywhere. She can't afford it. She needs to feed her child. She's giving a cry for help. And it was really heartbreaking to see that a lot of these places, especially churches, were saying no. They were refusing to help her. What made it even worse was that a lot of them were coming up with excuses as to why they would not help her. Some were saying, "Oh, have you tried calling these people? Have you done this? Have you done that?" One even said that, "Oh, we really only help people that are members of our church." I was astonished, to say the least, once I decided to look at this TikTok for myself. Because what do you mean that the place that preaches giving to others and living like Jesus is refusing to help somebody who is giving a cry for help? First of all, that is the complete opposite of what Jesus would have done. Now, I'll be frank, I do not have many verses that I can name off the top of my head, but I do have overall concepts. And I know for a fact in the Bible, I want to say it's in the book of Psalms at least, it says that when we cry for help, God not only answers, but he responds. This, when there is a cry for help, yeah, they heard it, but they refused any type of beneficial response. Now, when analyzing this situation, obviously the first question that came to mind was, why were they refusing? They were being given an opportunity to help out somebody in their community and were refusing. In a sense, it almost makes it sound like that they're keeping just their members taken care of. That if you're a part of our circle, then, oh, we'll take care of you. But if you're on the outside, screw it. Your needs are not a priority to us, which is terrible. In the book of Galatians, it says that it doesn't matter what religion you are, who you are, where you come from, but we are all equal at the foot of the cross. We are all children of God. And so when that woman was calling those centers, she's a child of God. A child of God was declined service from a place that they thought would be dependable. And so as Christians, I believe that we need to take a step up and show people that have this negative perspective on the church that, hey, we are not for that. We do not agree with refusing to help somebody simply because they are not a member of our church. We are called to step outside of the church. The church is a place where we can meet and grow our relationship with God, but we are not to just conceal it for ourselves. We are called to share it with the people that you would not find in the church. Generosity, it's something that doesn't have to have a dollar sign attached to it, but rather just an action. As I've been reading my Bible, I've mentioned before I'm currently reading a Bible in a year plan. I'm in the book of Luke. There have been countless examples of Jesus showing compassion for others. It even blatantly says in the Bible, Jesus felt compassion for this person. He felt compassion for these people. And so what happened after explaining that Jesus felt compassion? Action. He helped them. He didn't even question their backgrounds, what religion they were, who they were. They sent out a cry for help. Jesus heard, and he answered. It reminds me of the song, I Trust in God. One of my favorite bridges in a worship song. I sought the Lord, and he heard, and he answered. Why don't we represent that? We all love to say, oh, I want to be more like Jesus. I'm trying to be more like Jesus. Okay, Jesus helped others. Jesus didn't question the lives of others. When they called for help, he helped. I think one thing that I keep seeing, especially on social media, is that Christians like to perform their faith. They like to say things that sound great, but when it comes to what they do, it doesn't reflect it at all. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. We aren't called to do that. When you are just a performative Christian, you're not truly diving into a relationship with God. You're simply working harder to deceive others into thinking you are when you know in your heart you're not. I think in a season where, especially now, where we love to hear sermons on generosity and compassion, I think one of the biggest things you can take from that is not just listen, but respond. There's so many ways, especially right now when it's approaching the holidays, that you can get involved and you can choose to help others. But it doesn't just stop once Christmas is over. It is a year-long thing that you can partake in. And like I said earlier, it doesn't have to have a dollar sign attached. Simply just acting on the situation. It's a simple demonstration of compassion. Sometimes God puts those opportunities in our lives because it grants us that time to, you say you want to be more like Jesus, there you go. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed, whenever you help somebody, you kind of feel really good afterwards, like, wow, I did a great thing, and they're probably really happy too. Two things when it comes to that. One, that's a neurological response. When we tend to demonstrate kindness towards others, there is this thing called oxytocin that is released from our pituitary gland. And this is really important for social bonding. This is really important for making others feel good. In fact, oxytocin is one of the hormones that is responsible for that bond between the mother and its baby when the baby's born. It's a really important thing when it comes to showing love to others. Secondly, while that's happening, it's really important for you to really dive deeper and determine, okay, where's my heart in all of this? Because when it comes to generosity, the end goal should not be for you to feel better about yourself. That is a form of pride. That's doing it for the wrong reasons. Jesus never performed miracles in a sense of be like, yeah, I'm powerful. I can do this and that. No. So why should you? Oh, you have so much money that you just sent a huge donation to. Like, wow, you're so amazing. Don't get a big head. It's really easy to do that when we do good things for others. Identify where your heart is in the circumstance. It'll show a lot about where you truly lie when it comes to giving. Now, I sure hope by now we all understand that, hey, when you help others, it makes you feel good. It makes them feel good. It's something that we should all be doing. That's showing kindness to others. Very cliche, right? We've heard this for years. Carry that into the season, but I want to move into something that's a little bit deeper, a little bit more controversial. And I'm such a firm believer that in order for you to grow deeper in your relationship with God and become closer with God, you need to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, having those tough conversations, thinking about deep things that you may be wrestling with. And one way I think we can simply just be compassionate is showing others who Jesus really is. By that, what I mean is when you see somebody living in sin, they fully know they're living in sin and doing nothing about it, one of the nicest things you can do for somebody is keeping them accountable. Now, I'm not saying you see somebody that is really struggling with the sin and you go up to them and say, hey, can we talk? If you keep doing that, you're going to hell. First of all, that is not going to do absolutely anything beneficial to not only their relationship with God, but your relationship with that person. But at least you have identified that, hey, they are struggling with something that they know they are. They're living in sin. They don't want to live like Jesus or they don't know how to, and you're just letting them be. I've talked about this a few weeks ago. To sum up what I said, what was it? 2-3 episodes ago? Identify where you are in your relationship first before you judge anybody else. But as you're growing, you should want to help others grow as well. Not even just spiritually, just in general. And this branches off into 2 scenarios, especially if you are Christian. You remember what it's like to be lukewarm. Maybe you still are lukewarm or have no relationship with Jesus at all. But if you do have a relationship, you remember what it's like to be in that beginning stage. This is the same for when it goes to how you approach helping others spiritually. Based off of experience, I know that I have more productive conversations with people who are like-minded as me. And you may feel the same. It's simply because we agree more on more ideas and we can have deeper conversations about it. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes we have really conflicting viewpoints and we can dive deeper into those. But when you are a Christian pursuing your relationship with Christ and you're trying to help somebody out who is not, you can't just approach it the same way that you would somebody who is also pursuing a relationship with God. You can't just throw out the spiritual terms. You want to help them. The end goal should be to help with the solution and not shove Jesus down their throat. Be kind. Be like Jesus. Be compassionate. Ask those questions. Be curious. Figure out ways. How can I help you? What can I do to be a good friend? The reflection of Jesus will show through your actions. Baby steps. Now, when it comes to somebody that's pursuing a relationship, they're really close with God as well. Conversation may be a little bit different. For example, I'm going to shout her out. One of my really close friends, her name is Lorelai. Both of us have been going to a lot of Christian events together. We've been having many conversations recently, just sitting in each other's cars, having God conversations, asking questions, saying, "Look, I just need to rant for a second," talking about our situations. And we're able to help each other in a spiritual way, always bringing God into the solution. But when there's somebody that isn't like that, or if you are not like that, you can't just jump in, but it'll automatically show through if you just try to be more like him. And kind of going along with being generous to those that don't really know Jesus, I want you to remember this analogy, okay? Because in all, we're all just simply trying to live and work on ourselves, right? I really like this analogy I learned a couple years ago. This is actually like I learned about relationships, but I think it applies here too. You have a garden, okay? And you're trying to grow your garden, but okay, you love butterflies and you want your butterflies and you have a garden and you want your and you want butterflies to start visiting your garden. You want your garden to flourish. You want it to be beautiful and vibrant. And so you decide to go leave your garden and start go catching butterflies. However, catching butterflies, bringing them back to your garden is kind of a tricky task. And while you're away from your garden, who's maintaining it? The plants begin to die. There's animals that come and eat off of the leaves and the stalks. You come back and your garden is a wreck because you were too busy going and trying to catch butterflies. But if you stay, you don't worry about those butterflies. You just keep growing your garden. You flower your plants and you keep checking on them, making sure they're receiving enough sunlight, that you're making sure that there's not any pests or bugs coming to destroy your plants. The butterflies will see that and they'll see how beautiful your garden is and they'll come to you. It's kind of the same thing. If you are not working on yourself, but you're going and you're trying to, we like to use the phrase save souls. You like to go and preach the gospel, but you're not actually doing anything yourself. You're not trying to grow anything spiritually or mentally about you. It's not doing anything. Those butterflies, they may say, "Oh yeah, she says some really good things," but like I know she does this and that. She doesn't really practice what she preaches. Are you really going to be helping people turn to God? No. But if you are growing your own garden, you're trying to grow spiritually, you're asking those deep questions. You're figuring out, how can I respond and be more like Jesus? What can I change in my daily life to reflect those habits? How can I learn more? What book of the Bible should I look into today? People will start noticing that, and people will start asking you the questions. They'll start asking you for help because they see that change in you. We're all living in sin, but if you're doing nothing about that sin, what's the point? And yes, we're called to help others, but I want you to remember that it's okay to go ask for help yourself. We all need somebody to rely on. Jesus didn't call us to be alone in this life. He called us to be in community. We all need somebody to keep us accountable and that we can account on. That's where true generosity lies in. Being gracious and saying, how can I grow my own garden? But if you need help growing yours, how can I be your servant for that? I want you to change your priorities and your focus and see that the people that are different from you will still also need help. It doesn't matter how much money they make. It doesn't matter what religious background they come from. It doesn't matter what culture they're a part of. We are all sinners. And we are all children of God at the foot of the cross. Keep in mind, too, Jesus hung out with people that you would deem unlikely, people that were deep in their sin. I really like how God says, the Bible even says that doctors help the sick. We if nobody was sick, there wouldn't be anybody for doctors to help. Same for God. If there weren't any sinners, there would be no need for a God to come save us. If there was nobody that was in desperate need for help, we would no longer need to practice generosity. But that's not reality. You were placed on this earth to be a vessel, to be a disciple. And part of that discipleship is being open to the problems of others and saying, how can I help you in this time of need? It could be anything. It could be anything. You don't have to be the solution to their problem, but you can be that singular step that maybe gets them a little bit closer to the solution. Just remember, once you've done your best, God will take care of the rest. Just taking those extra steps. Just showing that you care about that person. God sees that. Just remember, what we see as dirty, God sees as an opportunity to be clean. He did it with you. He can do it with you. He will. If you let him, why don't we do that for others? I want you to take a dive into the Bible if you haven't already and just look at who Jesus spent his time around. It wasn't royalty. It wasn't people you would think that the Messiah would hang out with. Ordinary sinners. You and me. That's who he spent his time with. And he showed compassion, just like we should do too. Guys, I hope in this season where we love to preach generosity, you're simply just not taking in the words that you hear from the message or the sermon, but rather applying it into action. Looking into your community and determining ways that God can move through you to get to others. Asking those questions on how you can grow that garden, how those butterflies can be multiplied, how those gardens can grow. Remember, when you cry out for help, God will listen and he will respond. And when somebody cries out for help to you, you should listen and respond. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.